all this imagined victimhood is what makes L.A. Rogers such a fascinating character. This notion of wronging by society while actively not engaging with society for the most part is what turned his sympathetic story into one of hilarity and mockery. So if I ever decide
I
to do
feel
it,
kind of bad for the guy, not necessarily for what he did, because he's a piece of shit human for killing other innocent human. And I'm never gonna be like, oh well, people wronged him. Like, no, you don't kill people. It's fucked up. But like, I'll say it like this: I feel bad for him in the same way I feel bad for Dahmer, as in, I don't think they were always like that, and they gradually turned into these like morphed monsters, basically. It's unfortunate, a lot of things that happen, but at the end of the day, that's still not excusable to kill people. Like, no matter how sympathetic or like wrong you feel like someone's been in society, like they've been wronged, I don't think that gives you grounds or merits to be like, well, it's okay or it's excusable that you killed people. Like, I'm not jumping that line, because the moment you do, you open up a large, window for like other people to get thrown there, because it's like, all right, if let's say Elliot Rogers, it's okay for him to kill people. Why not, Ted Kaczynski? Why not this person? Why not this person? And it's just like a long laundry list of people. Now you gotta like let it and be like, it's okay to kill, to the point where you no longer have like a moral basis or code whatsoever. It's just like hashtag I kill whoever I want as long as they're on my team, which is I think is like very disgusting and repugnant.
yeah, one of the fascinating things about the incels, as we've come to know them, the involuntarily celibate, aka gets no bitches of our
Basically, I just call them get no bitches. That's what they are.
of our population, is that normally there's a self-inflicted victimization that is never really reflective of reality to some degree. And with Elliot Rodger, there was no difference. There was moments where he would go to parties, injure himself trying to do a trick, and a woman who not only comforted him and brought him home to help him out with his injuries, was reprimanded for not consoling him through some level of sexual gratification. It's like there's a level of delusion that you just can't yet look and go, oh, the fact that you failed to go on this onslaught is not only hilarious, but it speaks to the social ineptitude of your grander scheme, that cognitive dissonance you have with reality in of itself. So it's very apropos that your massive killing spree was just you shooting some random denizens on the street, because when it comes to the actuality of your events and whatever you made up in your mind, that fairy tale that you ran to is quite, the disconnect is what makes hilarity ensue. In fact, one of the funniest locales that have ever existed upon the internet, who's been discussed at length due to his rapping ability, his constant selling out of record charts and being around the world worldwide, is Crypt. If you don't know who that individual is, he's a habitual liar. Someone who stroked it so often that he literally started getting fungi on his penile, as
Wait,
well
are you
as
talking
someone
about right now?
Crypt. His name is spelled or Cyrax. Oh, my apologies, Cyrax. It's spelled Cyra and
What does this
two.
guy do again? Was he like a streamer or something? I'm trying to remember. That name sounds familiar, so
No,
I'm asking.
he was a part of the ICP gang, and he was constantly calling himself a rapper while basically stealing beats from other people. One of his greatest accolades was when he there was a shooter and he claimed to be related to him, which he wasn't, but then he tried to sell shirts with him edited in.
So he was just like a provocateur then, like that's what he was.
Not a provocateur, but someone who just had no connection to reality. Even being a deformed creature, a little homunculi. If you ever seen him, his head looks like what happens to a balloon if you hold it at the bottom and just let all the air go up to the top. That's how his head is shaped.
Why
It's a
does
bit
that
of a
sound
mix.
like Ice Poseidon so much? Do you know who that guy is? Ice Poseidon.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
know who
So
I.
for the audience, so when Twitch was like really popping off, you could do something where you could send money in basically, and it'll read your message out loud. This guy would go into public areas and like screamed a message that people send him for like $10, and he'll play it out loud. So there's like videos of him going like crowded areas, and then someone will send a message on his phone to be like, I have a bomb strapped on me. I'm gonna blow up in like 20 seconds, and like a lot of really weird stuff like this. He really wasn't a good human. Like he's a piece of shit scum, if you want me to be honest. But it's one of those things where it's just like I don't. That's why I don't like consumerism culture, because it just promotes these idiots and stuff. Like same for like Nick Avocado. It incentivizes these like people to destroy their lives. It's really disgusting.
That man is a genius. You gotta admit that, all right? You gotta admit that
What
Nick
is
Avocado.
genius about destroying your life? Like he went from 140 pounds to like near 500.
Yes, but we're
Like,
talking about like
ugh,
the
gosh.
rules of power, the perception of being weak and being the imbecile, controlling people through the control of retention of time and money and assets. That man is a literal genius. One of the rules of power is to come across as feeble or become the idiot. People often love reality shows for these reasons. The obvious becomes immediate and emerges in their brain to reprimand a bunch of people who will never hear their advice ever within the world, but it's attractive, it's advantageous for them to ridicule these individuals. For people like Nick Avocado, he is the apex of that sort of particular idea. We can speak towards the obvious of you, like, your appetite, your dietary habits are causing you an early grave, one that would be nothing but saturated in trans fats. However, to a certain degree, what Nick Avocado does on his channel is clearly a personality. It's clearly a bait of an individual who is insisting that you engage with him in that nature. In fact, I remember the first time I even saw Nick Avocado was during this fasting period of exercising, and not gonna lie, mukbangs hit on some pornography type shit. If you're not trying to eat, if you're not trying to like eat, just watch some mukbangs. You can satiate that neurons firing off in that way. But what's interesting here is that the first time I ever was encountering Nick Avocado was one of the spliced together videos in this compilation was just him and his other half discussing whether or not he might have cancer, and he doesn't want to go to the doctors because he doesn't want to know if he has cancer. And so they dropped the conversation, and then the rest of the time period, they're just crying, eating noodles. And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. you know, Saying that out loud sounds horrible, but you have to. I'm
That's just
sorry.
so fucked up, man. I'm sorry. I'm like sitting here like, he really just said that. He really just said that. That's the thing I like about you, Hazy. Sometimes I'll be just letting you go off on a podcast. I'm like, wait, did he really just say this? And I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna let it roll.
But
Oh gosh.
suffice it to say, Big Avocado has made thousands, no, millions of dollars at this.
Okay, but
Basically,
at what cost is the what I'm asking you? Like, I don't look. I'll keep it very blunt. Like, I don't care how much money you make. If you sell your soul, it's not worth it. Like, an
yeah,
example, like there's how do I put this politely? So I'm not gonna dox anyone, but at one of my Catholic parishes, there's a guy who shows up later in the day when we do like our Bible study and stuff. He's a good dude and everything, but we ended up like going back and like leaving, and it was late at night, and he's wearing a jacket and he's taking his jacket off the stretch, and he had Raytheon on his t-shirt. I'm like, oh, you work for Raytheon. And then I'm just sitting here, I was like, all right, how do you like balance that like with being Roman Catholic? And then he's like, I kind of just like try to turn a blind eye on it. And I'm like, yeah, but you are aware those are like basically the devil incarnate as like a corporation, right? Like they're the Arasaka of like this world. They're like not good people, and they're notoriously known for like funding both sides of conflicts, or just give everyone guns and stuff. So I was like, yeah, like the guy, for him, for example, tying back into what I was originally saying, he's making a lot of money working for Raytheon, but at what cost? Like knowing that's blood money, basically. Like the money you're making is off of like people across the world getting blown up and stuff like that. Where to me, like there's been situations and positions I've been in where I've been offered a handsome amount of money that I decline or turn down because it's very shady, like blood money. I'm like, I don't want my hands in this stuff. Like, call me stupid, but I'd rather do an honest day's work than like, sell my soul like that. And that's unfortunately what Nick Avocado did. He sold his soul and his body destroyed himself, where his marriage collapsed, his friend groups collapsed, like no one likes him. He's known as like a sociopath. and he just eats himself to death. Like, it's just really disgusting.
Yeah, but have you considered how his bank account is eaten? That's what we need to talk
Again,
about.
I don't care how much money he's making. Like, at